pretty good actually.
Yeah, I wonder
What's
what
up?
it works to.
So yeah, it'll just report to
What?
you, right? It'll email you and then
Oh yeah, maybe.
whatever. Yeah, it's all good. Uh, but it's good to see you guys. I am super stoked on this record you got coming out. Can you tell me how the title, not to just jump right into it, but I had just read my list of questions and I was like, can you tell me how the title came about?
Yeah, it's a reference to a lyric from a song by a band called Godly and Cream. The song's called I Pity Inanimate Objects. And there's a stanza on there that says, physics isn't fair, is a tree as a rocking horse, uh, and ambition fulfilled. And the whole song in general was very inspiring because it's not only is it's like from the 70s, but it's extremely futuristic. The aesthetic of the song is very bizarre. It's like an acoustic guitar ballad kind of thing, but with like a gnarly, disgusting fuzz guitar. And the vocals are all ran through this like harmonizer. They were like all played. It's not a vocoder. It's like played out over someone just singing one note. And
Ugh.
it's so bizarre and uncanny, and it felt extremely futuristic. There was something about it that just like kind of blew my mind. And it's all from the perspective of inanimate objects. It's very like Dadaist. But that line stood out to me like it like just like punched me. I'm like, holy shit, that's it's true. Like we're all kind of all things that are alive are bound by the same rules, but they're not fair, like an ant is alive too, it's like the same rules apply, but it's not necessarily you know yeah, it's just not fair. So that just kind of it just clicked. It stood out to me, I guess.
It seems very appropriate just for what's happening now in the world, but also where you guys are at musically too, where you are almost not punishing you guys as self. It's like this record is a little heavier. This record is a little more gritty, and even at times when it gets like more four on the floor, it's still almost like a more Nine Inch Nails industrial type thing. um and the feeling of it not being fair definitely, it feels like you're being, a little overwhelmed or a little like pressed on, and I think that comes across pretty cool. And so were you guys thinking about that throughout like the songs themselves? Was there like a thematic thing to you tying them together as the songs came about, or was that just kind of more about, is that title more about just the record itself?
The whole impetus of it was this material already is kind of on the older side. This we recorded this like pretty much right after Malanota. So we were like still on like kind of a creative up, and we wanted to explore just a different sound, a different texture, and we like a lot of this stuff came out from just jamming and stuff, but the kind of like core thing I remember talking about this with Frankie for quite a while, is like I wanted to make music that looked like the cover of a physics textbook. And like that's like a pretty weird, like abstract thought, but for some reason it made sense to us and we found it funny. And we just like rolled with that. And so like the music was had like a mission statement, and then it was just like making the stuff that we normally do, but kind of with that in mind, I guess, Again, it's been a couple years at this point, so a lot of this maybe can be kind of contributed to like a retroactive thing too, because like in it being done, like how a lot of times like you see the final product and you can kind of attribute meaning or a concept or an aesthetic, and it's had a lot of time baking for that, So it 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 has a strong aesthetic and it has a loose conceptual thing, but it's more about the presentation as opposed to being literally about the color blue or whatever. Like
Sure. No,
it's
that's
a
cool.
little bit more in the presentation as opposed to literal.
Okay. And that
Yeah.
that makes a lot of sense. And before we get a little bit further into that, actually, Santi, you were the last person to see that, right? Or to hear
Yeah.
it, right? What how did that like translate to you when you were like, did you hear about those concepts when you heard it, or were you aware of those when you heard the music?
Well, the thing that stood out to me the most, prior to Tony explaining to me the concept, what the or at least the way I saw it, the way I perceived it, was with the physics, right? There was there's like this layer of, I could say, complexity in which the composition is made that just tells me, wow, this is actually very sciency, right? There's a level of detail here that is explored that it wasn't, maybe it was explored before, but not with that degree of depth. I would say it that way. So that's the way I perceived it most of all. Now,
Yeah,
when he explained to me um, the whole thing about that album, well, that just clarified even more the whole picture. But the
nice.
word physics just speaks for the album in a way.
Totally. And on a literal level, like sound is physics, right? Um,
Yeah.
we've been saying that this isn't math rock, it's science rock, mostly to take the piss because genre is bullshit. But it's also true to like how we've always made music, which is always just experimenting. Like it is kind
Mm-hmm.
of a like a maybe not so literal scientific pursuit, but it has a spirit of of exploring. Like even if an idea is weird, like sit in like it came out for a reason, you know. So it's kind of like a fusion of all of those things, and I feel more than anything, it's like a like a mark point. Like this is like us from now on, kind of thing. I feel like it's kind of like we're treading into a newer aesthetic. The stuff that we've been working on after this is like fucking probably the best shit we've ever done. We just
You
went
showed
up
me.
to go visit Frankie for a weekend. Frankie moved away from Miami. He's living in Wisconsin now for work. So that kind of like introduced something new in the van is that we've always been living in the same place. You know, that's always been a thing. So this has been very different. Not being physically all together. Like the last time we did this, we like went out for breakfast after, you know. So I for a little bit, I was feeling, some type of way about it because it's a change, you know. It's a difficult thing, but we've been adapting. We've been more productive than ever, to be honest. It's really good. We kind of like I think being a fart kind of like put a fire under our ass. Like, okay, you guys got to figure your shit out, you know. And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, so it's we've been writing new stuff. It's cool, dude. It's very cool. Um, yeah, I'm tangentializing because I'm super caffeinated.
Good. No, that's how you get to the real stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
So I heard the final master earlier. I'd like to go a little bit like kind of like a track by track with you guys because it's not a ton. But I also just wanted to ask before we do that, do you guys all like feedback on like the production and ultimate sound? It's such an electronic sound at some points, and then also very kind of distinctly like kind of the older trio Pavlov's Bell sound. uh I don't know, has your guys' views on production changed as a trio, or is it more collaborative now? Is that what I'm asking? Is it a more collaborative process with production now?
Well, we introduced someone new to that process, which is our friend Jordan. He goes by Yucky Poor. And honestly, in a lot of ways, he's a big part of why this album's coming out at all. Because, um, in the kind of fallout of the lineup change, the music kind of stayed in limbo for a long time. This record, particularly, it kind of stayed in the ether, you know.
Yeah.
At the time, I didn't necessarily have the chops to do it on my own, you know, so I needed to find someone to work with, and that's a very like intimate process. Obviously, you know, everyone who's made a thing knows that like you want to make it the best that you can, and you probably have a clear idea of what you're trying to do, and that was the case. And with Jordan, we made a deal because he like works at the studio, and he's like allotted some hours every week. So we'd meet up once or twice a week. I traded him like 10 guitar pedals for
Oh,
just do the record. And he was super cool. He's like, all right, I'll do the record. You know, that was like, it was our trade. It was like a handshake, basically. It's like, I don't know how long this is going to take.
that's fair.
you know, and it took a year pretty much between being out of town and all that, but it was from February to December or November of 24. And at the time we were all living in town, so occasionally Frankie would stop by the studio, Santi would stop by the studio, we'd chill, we'd be listening. um, but the new angle to that is definitely Yucky. He kind of like lent a hand with executing a lot of those ideas that, like I feel like a lot of the times in a studio, like it can be so exciting because it's like limitless possibilities. And I think that it was a good countering force. It's like I would say something outrageous and like we'd try it and it couldn't quite work, but it was always like mitigated well. And also like the feedback of the boys, every mix, like I would send it in the chat, we'd talk about it. You know, it was like very much a labor of love. But I spent a lot of hours in there with Yucky, just like in the weeds. Because honestly, these recordings are demos. Like they should have been done at like a proper way. These were like the tracks that were supposed to be pre-production.
Sure.
But at a certain point, I was just like, you know what? Why not? Like, let's see what we could do with this. And that was most of the work, if I'm being honest, is just making it not sound like shit. But I think we were able to actually work with it and make something that is very expressive and it's true to the ideas that were like core to like making it happen. So it's realized, but it just took a while to get there.
It's cool, and I mean, it's just kind of from to counter all the science and the physics references. It's very from the heart. I don't know how to say it in a way where it's like I don't mean that in like a romantic or a intimate and feeling way. It's just like it's very raw. I guess it's more like without it sounding like something like Queens of the Stone Age. It's something like where on its imperfections are part of the narrative.
Yeah.
It really becomes its own thing. Like it's easy to trance out on the record, just as a sequence. I remember doing
Mhm.
that when you sent me the old master for it, and I remember just having those memories when I just listened to the official one. But yeah, so you guys start the record off with "Do the Nonagon," right?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's the first song we wrote as well.
Yeah, and we talked a little bit about like the 9 beat, right? Um, that's still a really fun song. That did you say something earlier on Facebook or Instagram, Tony, about that being your favorite progression to play, or was that a different song?
Yeah, so that's another song. That's the last song. That's
Okay,
oh, yeah.
cool. That song is crazy. That's the one that you added last, right?
Yeah, right.
Weird thing at the end there. That was super cool.
I I I like when records end with a feeling of actual conclusion or like some sort of like ha where it's okay, like it's done. And that song in particular, not to get too ahead, but it's like it's different than the others, so like well, I guess we could chat about it when we get there, but yeah.
Still, yeah, I mean, in the sense, it's interesting because there's like 4 or 5 songs. There's a couple like interludes too, right?
Yeah.
It still is like a lot of what we say about one song can be applied to like again, like we were saying earlier, like more of either the production or the narrative or like what glues these songs together. Because it reminds me a little bit of like the term world building, which is a strange but kind of slowly growing term that you hear in music that has like a lot of
Mhm.
production. And I feel like maybe this is Pavlov's first world building exercise, whereas before you guys were just kind of expressing and not to be reductive, like just before you were expressing a maybe a parallel thing. This is like a you're creating it instead of expressing something or reacting more to it. It's like more a proactive approach.
Sure.
Um, and I think that kind of becomes apparent once is I don't remember what the next track is called, but it's like got a very cool like dancey beat.
Yeah, Pictures of Cameras is the second song.
Cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't know. What can you guys tell me about that song and how that like evolves from how that comes from Do the Nonagon?
You want to talk about this one, Frankie?
Yeah, so pictures of cameras is like Tonyo has like the riff in the beginning that's like ding, 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 ding.
Yeah.
Um, and then there's like this whole like time field change, and right going
Couple.
into the next section, um, that I kind of like didn't know what to do with at first, but that like not knowing what to do with it, I think it was like what I ended doing with it. Like
Cool.
I'm just gonna play it this way, and I'm not really gonna think about maybe like the time or like the triplet that goes into it. I'm just gonna like do these like little like things in between like the hi-hat and the
The
right cymbal
hi-hat
bell.
sounds crazy. I love what you're doing with the hi-hats and that. That's fun stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I just wanted and then like having like the bass drum just boom, 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 and then kind of just driving the song like a different direction, somewhat like a left turn kind of like a thing
Yeah.
that comes out of nowhere. I remember showing that song to like my drum teacher one like a while ago, like when it was like still like we were still kind of like brewing it up, and he was like he's kind of like a just like a jazz guy, but he does listen to like his like um pretty experimental music from time to time, but not like to like any crazy degree. But he does like he's really into music. He showed me a lot of like music that I like love today. But when he heard that part, he's like, "Whoa, that's pretty interesting."
It is. Because I mean you're going from something that's almost kind of like a polymeter technical thing. It's almost and it's very jazzy, and then it's like boom, all of a sudden like kind of a stoner rock or a disco kind of a transition that happens in the blink of an eye. And it's hard to describe like
Yeah,
using
because
comparisons.
there's a time feel thing, and then immediately after that, it goes into kind of like a tugu baku tugu baku. It's like a kind of like a
Mm-hmm.
disco-y feel that I took kind of like inspiration from like the drumming from Aiming for Enrique for those kind of like tugus.
Nice.
Um, so yeah, that's a fun song to play.
Yeah, and you do that like kind of trade off between the snare and the drum and like I'm not gonna try to imitate it. It was just like kick, snare, kick, kick. I don't. You're like inverting the pattern or something like that. I can't.
Oh yeah, yeah, I did it to
Uh,
like sort of like
I
the end of that
remember
phrase.
it's yeah, it's very drum and bass, but like not at the same time. And then I
Drum and
think
bass comes later.
right. And then you have like, is it the this kind of like interlude track next with the vocal sample?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So that's not Newtonian. I just want to say real quick about Pictures of Cameras. That ending part is a good example of something that we worked on with Yucky. Um, so before that drum and bass part was actually just like performed, like it was us like playing our kind of idea of a drum and bass track, but this was a couple years ago. I think especially since Santi rejoined the band, there's been a drum and bass fever that we can't get away
That's an
from.
accurate way to put it.
These guys are insane. These guys, dude, Frankie drove us to the airport and it was drum and bass for 2 hours. And it's like not even a bit, like I don't even know if he likes it. It's just on. And it's
Either.
like everyone vibes with it. No one's mad. No one's pit. I mean, maybe like I can't drive 2 hours to
Tonyo's
drum and bass.
pissed.
My bad. But like, I mean, so anyway, especially in these like last 2 years or so, there's been a huge enthusiasm for it. So we kind of revamped that whole section using like real drum and bass. Yeah, exactly.
The first
Yeah,
thing he said when he sent that to me is it's good for driving.
it is not. It is not.
It's the best.
Oh man.
It's the best.
Yeah.
It's a good playlist though, and I appreciate you guys being into that at all because I don't know. I love the Aphex Twin quote that he thinks that jungle is like the ultimate genre because the musicians are not musicians necessarily. And like
Um,
that's such a jazz thing to say, and also just kind of a smart ass Apex Twin thing to say. Uh, but it's cool because I don't know if seems like Y2K Friedricher Arrow kids are starting to get back into drum and bass. Like Gen Alpha kids or who's it that I've been really getting into, and like I thought I'd be embarrassed about it. Pink Pantheress. Uh,
Okay.
you ever heard? Oh shit! I feel like you like it's very short and like I don't want to say hyper poppy, but it's very DNB inspired pop music, and it's
Mm.
a lot of fun. And yeah, uh, I feel like you guys are all super musically open. I feel like you'd enjoy it. I wouldn't necessarily add it to the playlist, but it is something
you
to be
never
worth
know.
it.
You never know what
You
ends up on there. I swear.
you never know. Yeah, it's
There's songs from
Uh,
video games in there. Yeah.
what's
there's
the
hella songs
last
from video
thing
games.
that
Yeah.
you guys added to it, to that playlist? Do you guys remember?
Santi added like a whole album from like Oral Imbalance.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, there's something about it. I like something that you mentioned, Michael, that yes, for some reason, all of us are kind of in the same generation. Back then, when we were kids, we used to play video games, specifically like racing video games. I mean, that's filled with all drum and bass,
Yeah, yeah,
like
yeah.
90% drum and bass, and it's always been kind of in the background, right? And it's all mostly digital sounding drum and bass. You know, Mario Kart. I mean, so many games, right? And it's one of those genres that is it's suitable for the game, but it's not something you used to just listen to it outside of a video game.
Right. Unless you're Frankie or you know.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Like 10 years after, and
Yeah,
I
but I
don't
didn't
know.
used to like listen to drum and bass. It's like I've gotten into it like lately. Like lately as in like the past
Me
like
too.
2, 3 years, you know? And then I like we started making this playlist and it's like, okay, this is kind of like what I listen to. It's like my default almost now.
Now it's
Yeah,
our like walk on music and everything. Like they every time we go play a gig, it's like, hey, play this playlist. And sometimes they will, and it'll be drum and bass for the entire night. It
Yeah,
for
really
the
will.
entire night, and
It's
you
a
you
see
good
see
people
it's
people
a
like
good
people in the
sport.
bar like
people like
Yeah.
It's like Night at the Roxbury kind of.
It could
Uh,
be worse. It could be worse.
it
Yeah.
could be worse. I was gonna ask. I had a similar phase, but like a long time ago. But it was like stuff like New Jobs.
oh
Uh,
Mhm.
yeah.
would you
oh yeah, yeah.
rather, for the same amount of like, let's say you got to go from where you are for a 2 hour drive to the gig, would you rather listen to that kind of music or DNB?
Oh, DMB.
Honestly, I could interchange between I could flip a coin and do either. Both pretty good.
No, no,
I
no,
just feel like
DMB.
I think I'd have to go with DNB too, just because it
More
matches the
active,
speed of
more
driving.
active, more
Um,
active
Yeah.
listening. Yeah. The
yeah,
lo-fi beats to study to is precisely, to dissociate.
yeah, I would probably get in an accident. You
Mhm.
know,
Mm.
I don't remember ever listening to that stuff driving, but I do remember listening to it a lot, like chilling in Oregon, like
Sure.
just
Mm,
chilling and smoking and whatnot in the
Yeah.
forest. Because yeah, it's like dissociative, and at the time it felt innocent. You know,
Yeah.
in 2016, 2017, you know, felt like things were a lot simpler. But um
word.
anyway, so yeah, that's where I was before. That's where I met these guys officially uh in Eugene. But so after, do you guys want to talk a little bit about that like sample, the interlude?
Yeah,
Like
sure.
what is the vocal sample?
That's from an audiobook. I'm blanking on the name. But it's a small excerpt talking about simple harmonic motion, which is a concept in physics. I am too dumb to articulate it at its right way, but the sample itself is talking about tension on a string and how basically you put more force on the string and you raise the pitch, etc. The a very literal. This is pretty on the nose, but I feel like it's kind of a mission statement. The song is called Non-Newtonian. The song is
Right.
generous. It's an interlude, but it's yeah, it's the mission statement. It's like music is physics, sound is physics. Everything you're hearing is a product of those same rules. So yeah. That's
It really reminded me of that sort of old, well, I shouldn't say sort of old, that fairly old Disney production where it's almost like Fantasia, and they're just talking about physics and math, and it's just like, and then I
yeah.
shouldn't go into that. But
It's like that, but scary. You know, it's like extra
right,
scary.
it has a more sinister thing going on too. That's why I
Yeah,
was curious. I was like, I don't think it is a Disney thing.
Cool
yeah.
reference, by the way.
It almost is like Masonic.
Yeah, yeah, it's intense. That's the DFAM like on some sort of like with a bunch of reverb sounding like heavy machinery, basically. Yeah,
Going Jarbo or
yeah,
Mersbo. All the bows.
all of those.
There's something about the creation of this album, and I don't this. I guess this is something that happens with many artists, and eras of music, which is that at first, in the 1800s, then we had this these concepts of what music should sound like and what harmony should be like, the harmony in music. But there's something very interesting that happens in the 20th century, which is that composers don't just only look at music, right? Everything that's been beautifully done has been done, even though that's more beautiful stuff can be created. But now artists use sound as a physical thing that can be experimented with, and there's something to that, not being bound by these arbitrary, let's say, rules of music theory anymore. Okay, let's treat sound as a tool and let's use it as clay. What can we do with sounds in ways that are not bound by your usual harmonic rules, and I love seeing that reflected in this new album, just
Yeah,
using sound as a tool, something that can be explored in itself.
I think the word you used earlier when you were describing the album in general, depth. I think that is such a good descriptor for the like production style in general, especially when you compare to Malanota, which is in its own way extremely deep, like conceptually deep, and musically it is very diverse. And I think this one is like a little more tied together, and like, but
Yeah.
in that depth, or even in its like shortness, you can still feel like there's a lot of depth to or gravity to the parts. And it's funny that you were saying earlier that they result, essentially from demo tracks or demo stems, like that's hard to believe, honestly. Like, and shout out
Mm.
to your guy on production. It's very cool.
Yeah, yeah.
Shout out to Yoki.
Believe it. They're saying like shit. But the thing is, like, when we did track it, there was still like I think good like intention goes a long way, and kind of like having the big picture mentality of it. Like, okay, this sounds like this now, but it is clay, and you can, especially nowadays, like it's ubiquitous. I mean, you can get a DI guitar track and make it sound absolutely phenomenal. Like we didn't reamp, we didn't do, like it's really I wanted it to be more simple. I wanted to have less kind of overdubs and so much stuff going on. This is more a reflection of the band's sound. And I think the production, like it pushes things in a certain way. Things are like dirtier, things are like louder. The drums, especially, are very much in the forefront of the whole record. Like,
Yeah.
we pushed them. There's distortion on hi-hats. There's like we distressed the fucking overheads. Like we wanted it to sound more gnarly, like, and so I guess having a more lo-fi recording kind of leans into that, and it is what it is. I feel like there was a beautiful process of acceptance in that, like, because I feel like I had a very hard relationship with this record in particular because of the changes associated to it, because of the time that it spent in limbo. There
Oh,
was a
dude.
point where I was like, let's just not do this, like let's axe this and like move on. But I couldn't. I literally could not. I was like so like obsessed with just like seeing it through that like like I had like a writer's block or something. Like I couldn't move on from it. So like it just kind of came full circle. It's like, okay, I'm not gonna put it out. Okay, I'm gonna put it out, and we're gonna work on it. And we're gonna do it right. And and I mean, shout out to Frankie. Frankie kind of kept me level-headed through it because like I really like oscillated a lot emotionally about it. So how you said earlier that it has heart, it has a lot of passion behind it. There is a lot of thought and love put into the thing. Um, but it was like all steps of grief like about it. So and just accepting it for what it was and loving it and working with what I had and seeing it through was like part of that.
It's not fair. Physics is not fair.
No, no, it's not.
Man,
um
they come up with an eternally relevant album title too.
yeah.
um That's very so it's interesting that we kind of keep circling this. And it's not something that's necessarily unique to this band. I was talking to Greg from Car Bomb last week about the same thing, about like having this intimate, almost too intimate relationship with the songs, and like not being able to bring in that other point of view that
Hmm.
will help things actual, like not because you weren't progressing, but will help you actually get to the next level and not just keep stacking away tiny bits of XP, because I mean we can do that and always get better, and like maybe even you reach the point where you're like, I'm just gonna put it out as is, I don't fucking care
Yeah.
anymore. uh
Yeah.
but you can do that too, like it's always an option, but you don't have to do it. And it's cool to see people fight and get their vision realized. So yeah, anyway, but yeah, it's an interesting thing to just kind of notice that artists and creative people really struggle with that. And it's good for me to know, like, I've kicked the shit out of those songs I did with the guy from Converge. And then I'm
Hmm.
just like waiting till my heart beats at the right rate, and I'm like, okay, you can put yourself through another 12 hours of this today. It's
Yeah,
okay. And it feels good, but also bad. It's
I understand completely. I think sometimes you have to trust that feeling that you had when you first had an idea and it first excited you, because that goes away after you hear it 500,000 times. It goes away. It's not, it's like it's not this thing that's infinite. So you have to remind yourself and kind of like ground yourself like, no, this excited me at some point. Like I'm just fatigued from this. And when you have the space from it and you revisit things, you'll find like, holy shit, this is pretty good. Like, or
yeah.
like I see what I was going for. Even if you don't quite realize it, it's still like always a process, and you have to kind of like it sounds like you're like me. Like you have to, like sometimes you don't have the space for it, and you're just like, shit. I need to like not listen to this.
Yeah, I was like not enjoying. I was like, I know exactly what you're talking about.
But then it's that thing like at the lowest peak where I thought it was not going to be even a thing, and like at a certain point Frankie and I were even like it was just the two of us, and we were like playing improv gigs. Like we would just show
Right.
up, not have anything rehearsed, and just play. And so there was like kind of like a chaotic energy about it. It's like, should we even do this shit anymore? Like and we were kind of like
You're like
and
sweeping out the emotional energy. You're
yeah.
getting the shit out of there.
Yeah, yeah, and I think there's something to be said. And a turning point was when we decided, yes, we'll continue, and like we'll do this because at the core of it, it's about not only the musical merit of like the core of this band has always been us like going out of our comfort zone and doing shit that we can't really do yet. Like that's like our shit. It's like we'll get them next time. Energy all the time,
Yeah.
which keeps you hungry in a way. It's like, okay, like this can always be improved. There's always something to be done better. And if you're an obsessive like like a workaholic, it's like perfect. um
There's always
but
something to explore.
yes.
I remember asking Antonio, it's like, what would cause you to like not want to do like Pavlov's anymore? Like, would you ever not do like this anymore? And he's like, honestly, like the only way that I wouldn't do it is if like you didn't do it, because like we're like the band, and that kind of reassured me that as long as we're alive and like each other, we'll make
Yeah.
music together.
It's a good conversation to have.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
right at the fucking bottom, like but we found ourselves there, and like I think there's something to be said about like sometimes you have to go down there to be like, oh shit, okay. It's like it gives you some sort of clarity, And from there, like just through life, we started hanging out with Santi again, and it's like, holy shit, Santi, you're such a good vibe. Remember when we were in a band together? It's like, yeah, I remember. And it's like, all right, we
Yeah.
should be in a band together again. It wasn't like a contrived thing at all. Like it
Let's do it
just
again.
in the right moment, it kind of flowed. It flowed, and it was like, all right, then I guess this is happening. And then actually putting the fucking thing out became a conversation. And that was great. And so like it was like 2 years between that, but like we're here talking about it now. So like it happened. And
That's
there's
true.
never gonna be a gap like that big between records ever again. Like
No.
it's not gonna happen. So I'm happy to say that.
I hope you're right.
I-
I'd only say that because I'm like there are like way too many people that I've heard that like that have heard that from. But I say that with like really wanting to just hear more of what you guys are doing. You showed me that demo of Strobe song.
Yeah.
Very cool. And yeah, that's like you were saying, like that's gonna be like the level that I think you're starting to tease now in a way that's like, okay, this is like the world building's happening, and I feel like what you're starting to do is like almost kind of give it characters, not to like continue this
Mm.
metaphor that I don't understand, but yeah, do with
Like
that what you will.
like
So
that
speaking of
because
characters, we just talked about the narrator. What's the next track after the little interlude?
The
it's called
thing.
The Thing.
The
Yeah.
Thing.
The Thing. Yeah.
Right. No relation to the film.
It kind of, I mean, like I love that movie.
Me too.
It was the demo's name, and I think that was Frankie's actually. I think you put it The Thing, right?
Yeah, I think he like sent me the track and kind of just like as a cheeky way of sending it back, like, okay, here's the track with the drums.
Yeah, he's The
And
Thing.
here's the thing, yeah.
Yeah.
But like I had also just seen the thing with like my dad, like that weekend or something like that.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like
And it works because the whole thing is like a droning.
the whole thing.
Yo, what's good, doggy?
It's
Uh,
Julieta
Oh,
saying
hey,
hi.
what's up?
Julieta, bro. Look
Oh
at that.
my
Looks big, dude.
goodness.
I can't
Yeah.
get your pause.
Yeah, she heard the thing and now she can't stop.
Oh, really? You like that movie?
No, I'm talking about the song. She
Oh.
heard it.
I
She
was like,
listened
you let
to
her
it.
watch the movie?
No.
Yeah.
There's a lot of dogs. They all die.
The theme for The Thing has this like droning synth bass thing. So it just kind of works. It's like kind of like it is like I think that in instrumental music part of the fun is the names, because it's so ambiguous. It can be as literal or as descriptive as you want it to be, and I think there's something kind of cheeky about being so vague, but like
Yeah.
Yeah.
but playing into the actual the movie, The Thing, because I'm
Yeah.
a huge
And it's
I'm a
cool
huge
because
John Carpenter
it's
fan.
like a science rock, but also it's like a science fiction movie.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
It also
Yeah.
plays into the whole experimenting thing, that piece specifically.
Yeah. And also, we needed some sort of bridge to get into the last song. The Thing is the last song that was like recorded and made for the record.
Yeah.
We needed it, like it serves a functional purpose of like getting out of the kind of like dire mood that the earlier songs are in,
Sure.
and
Okay.
it kind of transitions into a different space. Like
Yeah.
in some way that the songs are color coded as part of the conceit. They're all kind of like tied to you that are in bands and have been in music, you know about screen printing
Oh,
and
sure.
printing in general. cyan, magenta, yellow, and black can
Yeah.
make all of the primary colors. So there's like a kind of an underlayer of the album that kind of plays on how the colors blend. And so Nonagon is cyan, Pictures is magenta, Non-Newtonian is just the interlude. The Thing is black, or the Thing is yellow, and Casa de Lua is black.
Okay.
But it's not that literal, but it's kind of like thematically they kind of correspond to those feelings. And Casa de
Works.
Lua is the last song, and so there's a sense of finality there. It's
Also, like
different.
going back on the thing, like how long that was like the last song like we wrote since like how long before that? That was like the first time we kind of really collaborated on something like
In years.
remotely.
Yeah.
Yeah, but even like the kind of like the current way we're doing, where we send back to each other, it's like the first time we ever did that. Even
So
Yeah,
when
by
did you
this
first
point,
put that? When was the thing first written happening?
last year. Last
Okay.
year. And that's just I did a drone with like a drum machine and just a synth bass like linked. They're just like chained. And then that was the core idea. And then I sent it to Frankie, and Frankie like fucked with the beat a bunch, and he like displaced everything and made it more like dynamic and interesting.
yeah, and I
And
played
then
over it.
he played it. Yeah, then he played it on top. So what you're hearing there
Oh,
is
cool.
like the drum take and a drum machine take like layered. That's why the drums sound so fucking heavy in that. It's like
Yeah,
fucking bah.
Nice.
Yeah. But yeah, how he was saying, it was the first time we actually like worked from distance. Like I think by that point we already had a little bit more chops, like just in home recording in general. And I was starting to sketch more, feeling more confident like recording stuff and sending it. And yeah, so that's the thing. That's how that came about. And then it bridges off into kind of like atmosphere, and like there's another sample. Um
Right. Yeah. Before you get to the last song.
yeah, it's just like it serves a functional purpose, that song, but I really like it. And it's really fun to play live. Like it goes really crazy live, actually.
That's
hmm
that's cool that there's like a concept that basically ends, and then there's almost like a track that actually kind of takes you out of the narrative again, I guess.
Hmm. Yeah.
That doesn't happen all the time. I guess people are so I couldn't really describe this intelligently, but I remember noticing that on Protest the Heroes Kazaya, they have like tracks 1 through 9 are the actual like story, the chapter 1 through 9, and then there's like the last track goes the hardest,
Hmm.
talks about all the tracks before, but from kind of like a removed perspective. And I always thought that was so cool. And to hear you tie that together, that makes that even more enjoyable. I also really like the last song because it almost is like takes me back to an era of like Deftones that we never quite got to see. It reminds like he if you guys were like there's like the rumors, or it never came out, but Eros, which was like the record that was gonna come out with their old bassist.
Yeah.
Supposed to be like a lot more like kind of it's hard to describe. But what I always figured that era would sound like was a lot like what you guys did with that last track. It's very um emotive without being overtly emotional, if that
Hmm.
makes sense.
Sure.
um like it's still really pretty, obviously. I love like the long delays and like the cool textures on the guitar and stuff, but it's like the intro too, especially, that like makes it just
Mm.
I'm not sure really what the emotion is. I guess how would you define the emotion of that song in particular?
That song in particular is different from probably any song I've written because it doesn't come from a like weird melancholic or maybe cynical or angry place. It comes from it's a song about nostalgia. And
Okay.
like how I guess it's also different in the way that it's literally about a feeling. It's literally about nostalgia. Like there's no other metaphor to it. The title refers to this place that I used to hang out with some friends in Brazil, and it's like I don't know, I had my first beer there or whatever. Just like kind of like a really simple time in my life when I was a kid, just hanging out and going to Brazil in the summer and like living another life almost, like just being separate from my day to day and like enjoying things on a more simple level, I guess. And I guess it's like a song about looking back at those feelings and like and being kind of confused by it. Nostalgia is a weird feeling because it's like you apply more meaning sometimes than like retroactively than you could see in the moment, you know. And I think it's a very human feeling, and I think that we should learn how to appreciate the things that happen more as they're in front of us, as opposed to like fawning about it afterwards. And like, there's a feeling of loss almost, like you didn't appreciate something enough.
Oh man.
Um, and so yeah, that's what that song is literally about. Like there's not really much metaphor. And I guess it's spoken this way, it kind of deviates from the whole conceit of the science rock angle, but it's also a very human song. So I feel like there's like a natural quality to it. It's very organic in
Sure.
comparison to everything, you know, like
Yeah.
there's percussion and real piano and like and you know like it's treated in a more open and more natural way than any of the other songs. Like there's no
Right.
real drum machine or anything like that. Um, so
It's
aesthetically,
almost like the
they're different.
goal.
Yeah.
Like if you talk about like the experiment, 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 experiment for all the other songs,
Hmm.
it's almost like what you were going for in a way, like not like necessarily musically or even conceptually, but emotionally, like maybe what you were trying to get. You were maybe trying. Now you have this like satisfaction in a track that's like separate from the lab. If that makes sense.
It's like you went outside and you saw the sun
You're
after
outside now. Yeah,
in
totally.
Los Alamos. You know, you're like, oh, the sun. Yeah, there's a natural prettiness to it. Uh, it definitely like I like when there's like closure in a story or in a record or anything. Like, you know, you need something to kind of bundle it all up. And I don't want to end on like some unresolved note, you know, like I want to complete the idea. So I feel like this song in particular has a very like hopeful resolution. It leaves room for more, which there
Definitely.
will be more. um yeah, we were writing a song right now that is kind of a continuation of this song.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. Like spiritually, it's like a part two to that song in a way. And maybe it'll be more literal, maybe they will never connect, but like it definitely left it open-ended enough where I feel like there can be more explored on that.
Yeah, he could almost like fade into it on the
Hmm.
next
Yeah.
one.
Yeah. Yeah.
um, that's really cool that you were bringing up like the very word of like nostalgia and like the feeling of like loss. I think because I think that maybe nostalgia is not necessarily as separate from loss as we always think. Like it's that it's not here that you're all of a sudden adding this appreciation to it.
Mm.
And it's funny, we've been talking a lot about electronic and drum and bass and jungle music. um it was not even like 2 or 3 weeks ago when I first started listening to that Pink Pantheress artist, and I had like this moment of maybe some of the first like true nostalgia I've ever had, where I was like, I am very sad. I was alive at like the peak of some of this music and like these things happening, and I had no clue. I totally missed out on the
Mm.
stuff that means a lot to me right now. And like it's this thing that like still doesn't even make any sense to me. It's almost like a childlike reaction because you're like, of course not.
Yeah.
But it didn't stop me from like really getting emotional about like this weird loss. And I mean, it's not quite the same, but it reminds me of a lot of other things that you can lose, I guess, and not necessarily know in the moment, and then all of a sudden you realize either that it's gone or that it did have a place, you just were not able to see it. I don't know, the past is a weird thing, and nostalgia is obviously makes it weirder.
Having the perspective to recognize those things, you know, like you're here now and you can see it for what it was, you know, and in that process you can either remove or add meaning, you know, and that's just up to you. But
True.
um I think that yeah, I think that we really just need to be more present in general. Like I think that we can mitigate those future feelings if we're just here a little bit more and like really being there. And that's easier said than done for sure. You know, like I struggle with that all the time, but
It's
I
a
think,
struggle. Yeah.
yeah,
Dude,
I mean, it's ADHD fucking garden, dude. Everyone's hanging out in it. You know, you can just do. I mean, I'm guilty of it. I'll like be playing video games and there's a YouTube video on, and it's like, what am I even doing? I'm like, just and like I'll put an audiobook on too. Fuck it, you know. Like,
I've
let's
been
let's
there.
you know, you know.
I think if you have like if you're not saying you are, if you're like hyperactive, let's say if you have a hyperactive mind, it's very relatable to like need multiple stimulus to like actually tune out.
Yeah.
Everyone knows what it's like to like maybe put something on the TV and also uh look at shit on your phone.
Yeah.
There was a point a while ago before I was medicated at all that I would like run on the treadmill with music and then like reading a book. Like physically awkward and emotionally all awkward, but was enough to shut the demons out. It's important. Um, but yeah, fuck that shit. No more demons. Anyway, uh, so I guess I wouldn't want to ask like, hey, when can we expect? I know it's July 18th, right? The
Yeah.
record is,
Physics comes out July 18th.
yeah, and you're already working on new stuff. Um,
Next
what's
year.
next?
Next year. We'll put out another thing next year.
All right, you heard it here
Yeah.
first. I was like, I don't know if I want to utter those words, but that would be cool if you did.
Yeah. Yeah. You can count on it. We'll be here
So,
talking about it next year. I promise.
good, yeah. Hopefully things are maybe a little more calm. I was telling
Hopefully this
Frankie,
next year.
yeah, exactly. I was telling Frankie I spent like the last 48 hours completely dissociated with Borderlands on the couch with my spouse, and it was not my proudest thing, but I did not feel anything extreme for 48 hours, and that's nice, you know?
That's nice.
You deserve a
That's
little treat.
Exactly, dude, just a tiny sliver of vacation.
sometimes dissociation is its own self-care.
Yeah, no, I should accept that. I didn't mind. I also beat Borderlands for the first time finally.
Oh no.
Yeah, I beat all the other ones, but this one, Borderlands, was like the least interesting to me for whatever reason, but it's worth a shot. It's a fun one. But anyway, thank you guys for being awesome, not just musically, but like troopers, real troopers.
Oh, and
Um,
thank you.
I'm just doing what I can with what I got. Speaking of what I got, still, it's like a picture of my sons just hanging.
Nice.
You know what the other thing I have over here is one of these like special edition Nick Reinhardt special disheveled cuss.
Oh, shell cup.
It has all the stems in here from the record, so I
That's the USB one?
What?
That it has a USB. There's like a
Yeah, it
USB.
has the USB.
Yeah.
I want to sample the drums and get them chopped up because they're from the guy they're Smashing Pumpkins.
Oh,
So I'm sure there's some really cool snare sounds in there.
yeah. That's sick.
But anyway, love you guys. Thank you. Love the record. And is there anything you want to say to Pavlov bell ringers? What do you call your fans? Science kids?
I don't know
The
if we have to
Pavlovian.
point it in. Pavlovians.
I was gonna say that first, and I was like, "There's no way."
It needs work.
That's cool though. Yeah, like
Pavlov's bell ringers is crazy, dude.
or like Pavlov's army. I that was like a popular thing in like chat room
Right.
ages with bands like uh I don't know if you guys ever listened to embarrassing grunge music. I was a part of the Cold Army, like that Cold band. They did that song for the Psyops video game, What a Time to Be Alive.
The
Anyway,
Bell Society.
that's amazing. That's radical. Maybe the craziest mail. You probably couldn't do a mailing list without being on some other list, but that's very cool.
Right.
Yeah. We definitely want to do like stuff. We like the end of this year, we want to celebrate putting out the record. We want to do like I want to plan out some shows to do in like Miami and like Florida.
Las Vegas.
We're also trying to do
Mhm.
physicals. You know, we want it
One
to be
for
a record,
record.
like on vinyl and stuff. And
Oh yeah, this would be the one for vinyl. I'd love to get that. That would be great because it's
that's
got a
gonna,
darker sound. Like
yeah, yeah. Actually, Marcel's gonna master it. I mean, I'm saying this on an interview, but yeah,
Mm.
that's what he told me. So we'll see. So he'll master it for vinyl, and once we have that, we'll start working on getting that printed. So hopefully by the end of the year, maybe when we play those shows, we'll have the
Yeah.
records. So
nice.
And then for next year, I want to like start looking into like touring this like new place. We're in the Midwest. It's a new place to check out and play.
Oh, so you and that's like more around, are you saying that more around your area or are you checking out the Midwest US? Where are you?
Yeah, I'm in Wisconsin, so
Oh, okay. There's not a ton happening, right? Is what's going on out there?
Not really. There's Milwaukee. I know
Okay.
that actually tonight, in Milwaukee, this place called like X-Ray like Pinball Bar that like Standards is playing with
What?
Laurel and
Oh, you gotta
Cloud
go.
Chaser.
you're gonna go?
Well, that's like right now. I don't think it's like an hour away, so I don't think I'll
Oh,
make it.
dude, that's one of the few math rock bands that gets me going still is Clout Chaser. They are always just like, what
Mm,
is going on?
dude, yeah.
It's
I
like
like the
hella.
other ones too.
Yeah.
Yeah, very hella thing going on. Especially the new song that just came out. I'm trying
I
to.
mean, that's high praise for sure. Like if you sound like hella, like that's pretty great. You're not in a bad spot.
Yeah, I mean, you can probably sound like hella and sound like you should remain a Bandcamp demo as well, but uh, these guys make it sound good. That's the thing. Because I
Yeah.
mean, I I was just gonna say like I'm trying to put together those another Tuesday dump for tomorrow where it's just like handfuls of bands. And I always get a solid handful of ones where I'm just like, I don't know what I can't show people this. Like it happens. Like, and it's not necessarily even because it's terrible, but I think that maybe like the slice of the audience that would appreciate it is so small as like there's someone
Mm.
else, there's something else that more people are gonna enjoy.
Yeah.
And
How's
I
it been doing the video game articles and things like that?
thank you. Yeah, I'm what my goal is to like basically alternate these Tuesdays where so like for this would count, I guess, as July. July would be a music one, and then next month I would do the OST one for the Tuesday
Um,
music done where we just talk about the soundtracks over the last 90 days or 60 days, whatever. But it's a lot of fun and like I'm there's not I don't know how to describe it or know if I want to describe it. The blog is not suffering. If anything, the blog is doing better
that's good.
for talking about whatever I want to talk about. And I'm struggling to figure out what that really means or how I should use that if change anything. But it does seem like people appreciate that. So but coming from you guys, I really do appreciate that because you're people that I I keep in my like what these people think box. I care what you guys think. Not as there's not as many people in that box as you might think.
We're flattered. And I also think there's surely a bunch of crossover between nerds and music nerds, right?
There really is. I just found out that the I think the person who does like keyboards and programming for Turian, who's like one of my favorite bands from the last couple of years, work at Valve, and that was a mind fuck. And then the guy that does Luo is also I think he
Mm.
also programs for he might just do OSTs, but I was like he's obviously reworking all these Final Fantasy soundtracks as well.
Oh yeah, I heard those albums. It sounds really
It's
cool.
crazy.
Wow.
And like his sense, I feel like you guys have a very, very overlapping thing with a diagram and like the fascination of certain sounds. I would love to see you guys eventually play together. Um, but I think that's just like one or two people. But anyway, I'm sure it's getting late where you guys are. Are you guys, where is everyone now? First of all, you're in Wisconsin, Frankie.
Yeah.
What about you guys?
Miami.
Yeah, Miami.
You guys are in Miami. Okay, I
We're
thought you were
speaking.
all in different states at this point. All right.
You
Well, it's
thought
No.
you thought I was in Portland because of my wall of amps.
oh yeah, it does look like a child's peak rehearsal space.
You thought I was in the Pacific Northwest starting a doom band.
I can smell it. The yeah, dude, is that one of Danny's orange things over there? Oh my god.
What is this, dude? So most of the shit's I bought his cab though, so I got that going for me.